hello. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for those of you who are tuning in. If you are in the room, go ahead on and hit the share. Let someone else know that we're live. Tag someone, send them a copy, the link, and send it to their text message. Let them know that we are live. We're continuing our conversation today on toxic marriages, the unhappily ever after, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail today about how do you let go? How do you even know when it's time to let go of a toxic marriage, or how do you even begin to let go? So tag somebody. Let me know who you are, where you're from, where you're joining me from. Let me see if I can get my messages up here, because y'all know how Facebook be doing me. So let me get my stuff going up here on Facebook. Hello, LinkedIn. If you're watching me on LinkedIn or on YouTube, welcome, and IG, welcome. Thank you so much for joining on today. So for those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Dr. Tiffany. I am a therapist and a relationship expert. I do coaching, life coaching with women, particularly women who are healing and recovering from traumatic relationships. So relationships such as a bad divorce, a bad breakup, or a toxic marriage, or a toxic relationship, or just needing some help with transitioning in their life. That's what we do over here. And we don't shy away from talking about the hard topics. I know a lot of people may not want to address some of the topics that we talk about, but we don't shy away from the hard topics, because I feel like when we don't talk about things, people automatically assume that they're okay. And one thing that we know is that when people are given the right tools, or even just given the right language for things that they're going through, then that almost I don't want to say force them, but that almost it encourages them that, number one, that they're not alone, but that there actually is a solution for what they're going through. And so we talk about a lot of life topics, a lot of hard life topics, and my goal for that is to give simple solutions, even though some of the solutions are just not going to be simple. Like when we're talking about life stuff and we're talking about life problems, the solutions may not be they may not feel simple. Let's say that they may not feel simple, but they actually may be a little bit more simple than you realize. They just may not feel simple. They may not feel that they're hard topics and hard some of these are hard solutions, but our process simplifies it, that really all you have to do is make a choice. Like, all of it really starts with a choice. Everything that we talk about literally starts with a choice. Once you're aware of it, you have to then make a choice. And unfortunately, everybody may not make the choice to let go, or to move on, or to heal, or to grow and to mature. Everyone may not be at that stage where they're ready. But once you've heard something, my professor told me this in college when we were going through, and I was going through my training, getting my master's in marriage and family therapy. He said this. He said, once you learn something, once you've heard something, then you can't unhear it. You may dismiss it, you may put it on the back burner, you may file it away and pretend like you didn't hear it, but once you have heard something, you cannot unhear it. It is therefore filed somewhere in your heart, on your mind, and it's filed somewhere. Even if you choose to not take action, it's still filed there. And so our goal for when we come on lives every day is to give you something that you cannot unhear. Something that hopefully will resonate with you and encourage you to take action. So yesterday, we talked about toxic marriages, and we started off talking about toxic marriages and what that means. Now, if you have not heard me before in the past talks about toxic relationships, then toxic means that there is some type of abuse, or some form of abuse present inside the relationship. And so what that really looks like for you, if you're the person that's in a toxic relationship, is feeling like the relationship has these extreme highs and these extreme lows, where in times when the relationship is good, then the relationship is really, really good. And then there are times when the relationship is bad and it's horrible. It is horrible. And it's really not a whole lot of middle ground. And if it is a middle ground, then that's kind of that plateau stage, or that what we call status quo stage, where things just kind of cozy along, right there in the middle. And that's usually what make people stay in these relationships, because of that middle ground. Usually it's the high ground that makes them stay or get sucked back in, and then it's that middle ground where things are good for a certain period of time, but then all of a sudden things take a turn, and it could be something small that just kind of triggers the other person to act out or behave or treat you a certain way, or whatever. But then things take a drastic turn, and it's really, really bad. And each time you don't really go back to what things are really, really good. You go back to things being really, really good, but over time things get really, really bad, worse and worse. They get worse and worse over time. Worse and worse over time. So that's a toxic marriage. That's how we define toxic marriage, and one things that we look at. And another thing we see for people who have in toxic relationships is that they feel stuck. They literally feel stuck. And the reason why is because your heart really loves this person. Your heart really cares about this person. Your heart, like, you see this person when you're at that high phase. So you know that what they're capable of. You know that they may do things that I don't want to say love, because I don't want to call it love, but they do things that you have been wanting them to do all alone, or they feed some parts of you that are longing for love, or longing for that attention or affection, or whatever. That they're capable of doing it, but the problem is they're inconsistent at doing it all the time. And in between them doing some parts of it, they're also tearing down other parts of you. And so we see these things with toxic relationships. So yesterday we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about why it is not ideal for us to encourage people to stay inside toxic relationships. And I went off on my I don't want to say it was a rant, but it's definitely something that's passionate about, I'm passionate about, and how we can best help people who are in toxic marriages, outside of telling them what the Bible says about, how you should honor your spouse, and, and beating them over the head with scriptures about marriage, and, and things that they should do. I cautioned you on telling them they should work harder, and why that is not a good thing to tell someone who is in a toxic relationship, because chances are they're already working harder. And to put more pressure on them into working harder and fixing their relationship. Well, we know relationships can't be fixed with just one person. That's impossible. It takes two people to fix a relationship. And so we do people disjustice when they come to us out of confidence, or looking for help and looking for support, and we beat them over the head with scripture and tell them that they're not doing something right, or that they need to do more and more. And at that moment, that's not how we respond to that. That's not how we should react. That's not how we should support them. And so go back and look at the video yesterday, because I offer some different tools, particularly for businesses and organizations, and for those who are in leadership positions that may have people who are in these toxic, unhealthy environments and marriages. I offer some tips on how you can best address the situation. So go back and look at the video. So today I want to talk a little bit more about what the abuse actually looks like in toxic marriages, and then talk a little bit about, just a few minutes, of how you know when it's time for you to let go, and then how do you go about letting go. Because sometimes we just don't, if you don't know, you don't know. And if you grew up in a household where that stuff is acceptable, or where these things have not been called to the carpet, and people have not been held accountable for their behaviors, then you may be there, stuck, hurting, abused, misused, feeling like you have nowhere else to go, and because you don't know what else to do about it. So let me talk about some things that you can begin looking for. You know that the relationship is toxic and it's time for you to do something. So if you're with someone and they're telling you that you can never do anything right, like because you remember yesterday we talking about how abuse is not always physical. It's always, it's not always sexual. Sometimes it's mental. Sometimes it's emotional. And so if you're with someone that's telling you that you can never do anything right, jealousy is another sign. We talked about that at the beginning of the week, how jealousy is a sign, jealousy of family members. There are some spouses that are even jealous of their children that are their own, that come from them or their own seed. But I'm okay, because I told y'all I watch reality video, right? Like I watch reality TV. So there's another show that I watch, and there's this couple that's on this reality show, and the man has been accused of infidelity several times, like caught on camera, caught in action saying some things that were just kind of out of the way, very disrespectful, very dishonorable to the spouse, kind of just very awful stuff. And his response when he was caught, now I'm not talking about the Melody and Martell Hope situation on this. This is another reality couple. His response to being caught in what he was doing was that it was her fault. It was her fault that she, had a baby and couldn't give him enough attention, or that she wasn't taking out enough time because they had a newborn. Anybody who have had newborns understand the amount of energy that go into having a newborn. And if you're a new mother, you understand that your body changes and how you feel changes, and you may be dealing with postpartum. And so that is no excuse for a person to cheat. It's just not. It's not. Do we as women, I'm just talking to women just for this portion, do we need to put things in perspectives and still know how to prioritize and balance and all of this? We do. We absolutely do, because there are some women that just focus on their children too much. Just really being honest. Sometimes we put too much time and attention into our little babies. Sometimes we do. There's a such thing as a helicopter parent. So we do need to understand when it's times that, it's okay to let them go stay with someone, they're someone that you love and trust. It's okay. It's okay for you to go away and leave them for a couple of days, just so that you can make sure that you have, that you mentally are able to stay present and nurture other relationships and other friendships. It's absolutely okay. But what's not okay is for a partner, a spouse, to say that you're the reason why they cheated. No, cheating is a choice. Could things been done differently? Absolutely. But cheating is always a choice. So we talked a little bit about that a little bit earlier. So here's some other signs. Keeping or discouraging the victim from seeing friends or family. So isolation, we talked a little bit about that. Embarrassing or shaming them and putting them down, or saying that they don't look good enough, or that they fat and then outgrew. All of those are forms of mental and emotional abuse. Controlling, we talked a little bit about that. But these are things that you see even in marriages. Forcing sex with others, or forcing sex with them when you don't consent. Anytime we force, it's not okay. It's not okay in a relationship, and it's unhealthy. It's toxic. It's abuse. It's a form of abuse, and we just have to start labeling things what they are, instead of saying, well, they entitled when you marry. You just have to, no, you don't. You don't have to put up with any and everything just because you are married. You don't. If they're intimidating you, with their words, or with their behavior, or with, raising their voice, or with guns and knives, and you'd be surprised what people go through in their relationships. You would be surprised. You will be surprised. If they're controlling what you do, what you walk, they're going back checking your history on your computers and on your phones, and all of this. You'd be surprised at what people go through, and it's unfair for us. It's not good for us to tell people to remain in situations that are hurting them. That is downright tearing them apart and tearing who they are apart. And there are some people that are in these relationships, these toxic marriages, that they just don't even know who they are anymore. They walk around fretful and in fear of what the other person is going to do, say, how they're going to act, or whether they're going to. Yeah, it's not okay for us to encourage people to stay in these things, to stay in these relationships. So how do you, if you are someone who are in a toxic marriage, how do you know when it's time to let go? Because I think that's the question that I get more often. That's the question that I get more often from the women that I meet, is how do you know when it's time to let go? How do you know? Because those are the things that we don't want to talk about. Like, the topic of divorce, especially in Christian atmospheres and environments, is like, whoo, we don't even talk about what. So let's talk about it. How do you know when it's time for you to let go? How do you know? When you have exposed these things and nothing is being done. That's number one. You've exposed these. You've reached out, to people for help. You've tried to, to get help the best way that you can. Because remember, I'm talking about physical. Now, physical abuse, your physical, emotional state, all this stuff is at stake, which it is. We know that because we've already talked about the definition of toxic marriages. You have grounds to leave. You have grounds to leave. You have grounds to leave right then and there. It's time to let go when you're hurting. And I'm not talking about just the general hurt that comes along in relationships, because you're in a marriage. At some point in time, they're going to disappoint you. They're going to say something that hurts your feelings. But the difference is changed behavior. It's repentance. Is the actions that come along with that. Is this something that's repetitively happening? Is this a one-time thing, or is this something that they do? They behave this way every time they mad, or they repeatedly disrespecting you. They're repeatedly emotionally neglecting you, or they repeatedly forcing you to do things that you don't want to do. Is this repeated behavior, or is this just a one-time thing? And if you see that there is repeated behavior, or if the person, you came into the relationship thinking they were someone that they not, and then you get into the relationship and realize that they are not who they said they are, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the complete opposite. Yeah, you realize that, and it's hurting you. Then it may be time for you to figure out your next steps, what your next steps will be. If your life is at stake, it is time for you to get out of there. It's time for you to get out of there. And so how do you begin to let go at that point? Because this is where sometimes people get lost or get stuck at. It's like, how do I let go? How do I let go? Which can get sticky. That part can get sticky. Let's just really be honest. That part can get sticky, particularly for marriages. But here's what I always like to start my clients, and I have had clients who are in similar situations. I always prioritize their safety. Always prioritize their safety. And for some, they safely cannot say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm walking out the door right now. whether you like it or not. For some, that's not an option. For some, that's not an option, because if they do that at that moment, then their life is then in jeopardy. So for others, and you have to decide which one of these is more appropriate for you. For others, you're going to have to take some time and plan. You're going to have to take some time and plan. You're going to have to plan your way out of the relationship. If you've been staying at home and you don't have means to get out, and you're trying to figure out where your time is going to be spent, you trying to find resources of where you're going to go. What about your children? What are you going to do with your children? How can you safely escape from the person that's abusing you? And it always is going to go back to your safety. How can I safely escape out of this situation? I know I've already have a whole lot of wounds that has happened because I've been in this situation. I've been in this marriage for a long time, so I have a whole lot of wounds already. But how can I get out in the most efficient time where I'm safe, and if you have children, and your children are safe? And how do I say this? It's gonna all boil down to whether or not you are ready to actually end the abuse. It's just a matter of you making a choice. It's gonna be hard. You're already in a hard situation. So it's going to be hard. The road ahead is going to be hard. Choosing to leave is going to be hard. Making the actual choice that you're not going to tolerate this, like that you're standing up for yourself, you're setting this boundary. Leaving is a boundary. We said that. Leaving is a boundary. And so it's going to be hard, but it all boils down to choice. You have to make the choice of whether or not it's worth it, whether or not you're worth it. And even if you don't feel like you're worth it, is it worth it for the children? Because research shows that children who grow up in chaotic, toxic environments are better off with one parent that is healthy than in a two-parent household where it's chaos and abuse. They're better off. And so you have to make the choice. And once you make that choice, start planning your escape safely. And for some of you, you're not going to be able to do that on your own. You're not going to be able to do that on your own. Now, I love the domestic abuse hotline, because the domestic abuse is not just physical. Is we talked about it being sexual, emotional, and I just highlighted some of that even today. That is various ways that a person can abuse you, other than it being physical or sexual. But I love that their resources are out there to help a person's safety plan. Like, it will literally walk you through the steps that you need to do. And if you don't, if you're like, okay, that's online, I need somebody, that's going to help me, then contact the domestic abuse support hotline and work with somebody. Let them partner you with somebody that's going to help you. If you know people that can help you, that's why it's so important for us to have the resources as leaders and businesses and organizations. It's important for us to have those resources for when people are dealing with these situations. They'll know what to do. And that you as an organization can designate resources particularly for these kind of things, because I guarantee you know somebody that's dealing with this, even if you don't know that they are. We talked about yesterday how the stats was like 1 in 4 women and then 1 in 9 men are dealing with this, which means for every 4 women that one of them is in a toxic marriage or an abusive relationship. Or toxic, abusive, they can be used interchangeably, because let's face it, they're the same. So 1 in 4 women, 1 in 9 men, which means for every 9th man that one of them, just one of them, is in an abusive relationship. One of them. And so it's important for us to get back. We talked about this yesterday, getting back to community and just getting back to actually caring about people and designating these resources for people who are in these situations and not encouraging them to stay and beating their heads with, legal stuff. And, don't beat their heads in that moment. They just need you to care. They just need for you to care enough to say, I'm sorry you're going through that. How can I support you? How can I help you? That's not okay. And then holding the abuser accountable. We've got to hold these people accountable for what they're doing. If they're abusing, then they need some help. They need some help, and we have to hold them accountable to getting that help. And I've seen that sometimes these people, they're just not being held accountable. And that, we talk about narcissistic personality disorder, people who, have those traits. It goes back to accountability. Because sometimes they don't want the accountability. They don't like the accountability. They don't like the boundaries. They don't like the structure. And so what we have to do is to bring them into, oh, you can't hear me? I've been talking all that time. And you can't hear me? What about now? I've been talking all the time. I'm so sorry. Can y'all hear me? I don't know. I don't know why I'm not being, oh, you hear me. Okay, IG hear me well. Let me know. Can y'all, okay, that was YouTube that said that they can't hear me. All of my sounds and all of this stuff are up on my end. So I'm not sure. Facebook, let me know if you guys can hear me. Jerica, could you hear me on Facebook? I saw you switch from Facebook to IG. Were you able to hear me well on Facebook? I'm not sure if she's still there. Okay, I have to go back and figure that out. If I need to re-upload it, then I'll re-upload it. But we have to hold these people accountable, because we talk about narcissism and all that stuff all the time. Okay, you don't have Facebook? Okay, no problem. I thought there was someone else on that I saw hop on from Facebook, and I was trying to see whether or not they could hear me. But I don't see my comments. But I'm going to keep going, because if I need to download the video from IG, I'll just do that. But we have to hold people accountable for their behaviors. We do. We have to hold them accountable. And the part of the reason why people struggle with the narcissism and all that, because everybody don't have personality, this narcissistic person. Everybody's don't have that. Oh, could you hear on Facebook, Jerica, when you hopped over there? Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what happened to YouTube. YouTube said that they can't hear. Let me tell them to hop on YouTube, hop on IG or Facebook. Okay. So yeah, we have to hold people accountable. We have to hold people accountable for their actions. And everybody don't have a narcissistic personality disorder. Because a true narcissist is, you know when a person is a true narcissist. But some of them have these behaviors, and some of the reason why is because they have unhealed wounds, unhealed trauma wounds that have not been dealt with. They have spiritual things that are going on in their hearts and minds and lives that they have not been dealt with. And sometimes we just need to sometimes everyone needs accountability. Everyone needs accountability. And sometimes people just need to be told, you need to go to therapy, and I'm going to hold you accountable to you getting there and staying, so that you can get the healing that you need. So that's all I have on toxic marriages, because I can keep going, but I offer some solutions to that, and how you know when it's time for you to go, and then how do you begin to let go. It always goes back to your safety, and it always goes back to you making the choice. You making the choice, and you saying enough is enough. I am worth more than this. It is time to do something different. I don't care what people think. I don't care what they say. But this is for me. This is something that I have to do for me. And part of the reason that they've been comfortable treating you the way that they've been treating you is because you, in so many ways, have co-signed on it. And so sometimes you letting go and you moving on, and you even exposing what's going on, when things are going on in secret, that's consent for it to keep going. But once you expose some of these things, and go get the help that you need, and bring people to the carpet for their behaviors and their actions, and hold them accountable for that, then a lot of things begin to shift. But it always goes back to you making the choice. And if you're needing some extra support, if you don't have anybody on your corner that you've trusted, or if you stepped out and you already, have exposed things that were happening and nobody responded, then, you may need to reach out to some other people. And so we offer a free discovery call for people who are in similar situations. Like, I'm not just teaching on this stuff just to teach on it. I'm teaching on it to expose the stuff that's happening with the people that are sitting right next to you, who are in your families. So I'm exposing the stuff that happens, or I'm validating even your experience. And so if it resonates with you, book a discovery call with us so we can help you begin planning out your next steps. Today is the last day that I am accepting coaching calls for the month of September. If you have not booked by today, then the next time that you will be able to schedule an appointment is in October. I have to close my books off so that I can have time to balance my schedule and pour into the clients that I currently have, and all the other things that I'm doing outside of that. And so I have to balance my schedule. So I usually close my books in the middle of the month so that I can finish out the month and prepare for the next month. So I am currently, until today at 5, taking on clients for September. And then after that, then I'm not taking any more discovery calls for the month, not taking any more clients on for the month if you do not book by today at 5. I will still have my booking available, but my books will be open for October and not this month. So if you're trying to get in to be seen, if you know that what I've been talking about has resonated with you, and you're ready to go to the next level, and you're ready to go to the next step in your life, and you know that it's time for you to do something different, then I am taking appointments for September by 5 o'clock today. And that's 5 o'clock my time. I'm Central Standard Time Zone. So it's 5 o'clock my time. I'm not sure what time that is in your time. So you'll have to go Google and see, the difference if you don't know it already. But you have time, if you're trying to be seen in this month, by today at 5, to go ahead on and book. If you are on Facebook, it should be right there in the descriptions. You will see schedule a call with us. It's a call. Your first free 30 minutes is on us. You'll see that link right there. If you're on IG, go to my profile. You can follow me. If you're not following me already, you can go right up there to that little arrow, click that little arrow, and down it should pull my name down. Make sure you're following. Go straight to my profile. You'll be able to book directly from my profile, or you can click that link, and that link will take you to my website where you can book directly from my website. LinkedIn, you can book directly from LinkedIn. It should be in the description. If not, comment and I will send you whether via email or whether via Messenger. I know Messenger is a little bit different on LinkedIn, but if you put down in the comments, then I can connect with you and send you a link to book directly from there. But whatever you do, let's not let's make some real decisions in our life. Like, if you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to, thank you, Jerica. Jerica says, book, it's worth it. I'm 2 weeks in and already being changed. Jerica is one of my coaching clients. She's amazing, y'all. She hit the ground running. She was like, I'm not going into the next year. I am not going into the next year doing the same stuff. And when I tell you she's been putting the work in, she has been putting the work in. And those are the clients I love working with. The ones who are ready to do something. Now, if you're not ready to do something, I'm not your girl. I'm not your girl. Like, if you still want to, if you're not ready to take action, I'm not your person. I am not your person. You're still trying to discover, and you want to stay in the situation you're in. I'm not her. Cause you got no, we're not staying where we are. We are not staying where we are. So I love you guys. You guys have a wonderful weekend and a happy Friday. And I'll see you back here Monday. So be on the lookout of the things that we're going to focus on Monday. Make sure you booking for the month of September until 5 o'clock will be open. After 5 o'clock, your booking will have to be in October. I love you so much. Y'all take care. Talk later.